Grippe and Flixie though, one more time. Another revive. It's gonna have to go through, but this time it's gonna be Grippe turning the favor onto his teammate Flixie. But that med missed as well. Seems Flixie is going to be just fine for the time being, but they've still got to keep pushing forward. They still got to keep trying to move in, try and stay ahead of these zones wherever possible. But 2 revives into the match already, Monster. You can tell that they're definitely having some tough times with making these rotations.
And I know we're jumping in with Monaco's Mustache and Falcon Tayson here, but I want to give a lot of credit to Baka and Pars, who have a great position over the lobby right now. A bird's eye view, they are one of the few teams poised up for potential high ground, and they have just continued to show us what they are made of. They are now officially slipped their way into top 5, really working their way up. But hold up, Tayson's got a lot of problems knocking on his door. Ping has gotten knocked in the mix there. So while he was focused on Tayson, other teams started to look inwards, and I'm not sure Tayson understands that there was a down body there.
Or maybe he did and might be interested in trying to pursue it.
He's thinking about it.
Kyrie hoping he can get the thing in time, but it's going to be too much from Tayson. Interruption on that revive. Now it's Tayson and Mustache seeing if they can finish what somebody else had started. They managed to get the material refresh, the item refresh as well if they wanted. There for the taking, and Tayson will swap out for that double legendary slurp juices. But Mustache and Tayson still powering through some of these builds that have already been pre-established here, and that's just a freebie for them.
Yeah, it's all in all a net positive. You get the damage that you need. You start inching your way towards this end game, then looks like it is going to be a Slappy Shores finish here. It's going just outside the mountain there. Vino's already marked up the position they want to be in. It's that natural high ground on the backside here, the ice capsule. But again, Baka Pars looking downwards on them, putting that infinite upwards pressure here, not making it look easy at all here. Queasy's going to have to concede for a bit. It's cost him a lot. He's going to have to take some of Vino's inventory as well. So Vino trusting in Queasy to lead the rotate here.
It's all about that middle, though, at this point for Queasy, especially when you know that you're having some pressure being applied to you from the high ground. The more durable your builds, the better. As far as understanding, though, which way he wants to target Queasy, recognizing the fact that he's got his chance right now. Just keep building up. And again, with it being metal, it's so difficult for teams to really take a second to try and chop them out just yet. Queasy gotta look for the connect onto some of these other builds, but dropping down ever so slightly, still maintaining the height overall, though.
And that's what they do best. Limited builds to just get there, connects it to a structure in the distance, but Cammy and Seti are looking backwards and they're saying, no, not today, not in this lobby. I want to fight for it as well. We need a big game here. We need it now. And all of a sudden now they are the most resistance on the front side of the zone here. But if they don't put pressure back, we know what's going to happen. Vino, Queasy will run with this.
Seti and Cammy aren't careful. Keep in mind where their builds were starting to go towards. I mean, with the direction that Queasy's headed at least, it almost seems as though they might headbutt each other on the high ground at the moment here. But instead it's Acorn, a bit sneaky with the crash pad. But he's continuing to hang around. He wants that front side of the zone, but hanging just on the edge of it.
And I just love how we're seeing, again, NA's best and EU's best, right? Back to back here, 2 different perspectives, 2 totally different layers. Acorn and Cold, again, just excellent low ground teams playing to what they play best, and they're doing it well here. Meanwhile, you do, of course, have your other teams fighting for height, so an excellent play to watch unfold here, but we jump into Pars, and end game from Pars here, too. No Baka. The least amount of elims we've seen so far, but it is a single one, so far of the 3, they put up numbers every time. Now we jump in with Muzz and Paper, turning online right now, 6 eliminations. Could this be their game? One big pop-up will put you up in that top 25, surely.
It's been a relatively quiet day for Muzz and Paper so far, so this could be a massive moment if they're able to seize it. Sitting on the low ground, though, Acorn and Cold. They can tell there's players trying to make their way around the edges next to them. 2 crash pads remain here at Acorn's disposal. Cold following closely behind. Cammy and Seti, though, they seem to be making an idea all their own.
Oh, this is crazy. From the backside here, they find the tags, and Vino's hurt. And this might be the new high ground. Cammy, Seti coming in out of nowhere, and they swing things around. Queasy's hurt. Vino's fully healthy, but no! Things change so quickly. Acorn and Cold finish him. And now Queasy's by himself, but still, excellent endgame for them. They're going to be happy with a top 10. Meanwhile, Paper and Muzz continue to force their way in here. 8 elims now, probably the most that are alive at the moment. Trailing behind another team, and Paper's going to fall there.
And unfortunately, Muzz to follow suit, but Merstash still up and kicking. Seti, though, with a massive hit, and that's the back-to-backs now onto Robop. With the materials refresh, it might not do him any good. He's not able to break into the zone in time. Acorn instead will be here to play cutoff, as now Merstash forced underneath it all. Larkpix as well, living as a solo. This is looking like Acorn and Cold's game for the taking.
And Acorn's doing an excellent job pressuring with the breach of shotgun, making sure no one's got a chance to breathe, but Larkpix is still going. He's found 2. That's 11 eliminations for Larkpix on the low. But NA takes the game. Acorn and Cold, the shrug.
He's making it look like it's exactly his plan. It's just too easy if you're Acorn and Cold. But the best part still is that moments away from figuring out just how the day is actually going to wind up. And we've got our very own Frankie down on the floor to see what they have to say.
I do. I'm so excited to talk to these guys because they're known for one of the most consistent placements in all of the games that they play, and you haven't disappointed us so far. What's it like, Cole, taking a victory royale on day 1 here in Copenhagen?
I don't know, it's an insane feeling. I mean, this guy's just, I don't know, this guy's on something else. Like, this guy's the best player, I think. I'm serious.
Yeah, doing it for Canada. We saw you in the air, nearly clutching the victory royale in the previous game, and now you've taken it one step further. For you, is it a bit of a dream to perform so well, so early in the competition?
Of course. I mean, like, getting ahead early is always the best, and no pressure now, you know?
Yeah, you're not feeling the pressure. You're pretty set on Sunday already. Why do you think you are able so frequently to take down the competition?
I mean, I'm just playing with the best player. It's not that hard.
You have been preparing for this all year long. You qualified way back in Major 1. How do you feel like the game and the way you've had to play it has changed over the past year?
I mean, everything's changed. You know, we kind of did good in the beginning, then we had a little downfall, and everything's changing, but we're adapting pretty well.
You say downfall, what do you mean by downfall? Because you did place top 10 in all 3 majors in North America this year that you played. So for you, what's a bad day?
Anything under first.
Anything under first. Well, it's looking like you're probably going to have a very good day. Now, I've got to send back to the desk very quickly, though, before I do. Acorn said such nice things about you, Cold. Have you got a message for him?
This guy is actually the best IG on the game. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. This guy, just, his brain is just, no one can compete.
Well, I can hear Acorn saying, stop, stop, stop over there. So I will stop on your behalf and we'll head back to the desk.
Big congratulations to Acorn and Cold fighting themselves the victory royale. Now, before we continue, quick shout outs to Vivid and Levin, who will be hanging out with us on the analyst desk here for the remainder of the day. My, oh my. Sometimes I didn't expect any duo to win a game in this fashion, and that it looked so easy.
That game was a roller coaster, and for multiple reasons, really. And, you know, when we tune into the Global Championships, the one thing that obviously everybody is excited about is the clash of playstyles, the best at what they do. And throughout this game, you know, we saw a couple of height changes between, you know, arguably the best height team in the world, Queasy and Venom. And then I was like, oh, look at this, Acorn and Cold. They're on the low ground. That's exactly where they thrive. And then, yeah, they ended up on the high ground to win the game.
Yeah, that's what I've been looking at, Vivid, right? You're looking at the teams and seeing if the things that they do so well in their region, can that translate here on the global stage? For Cold and Acorn, the answer is absolutely yes. They have been dominating on these layers. And I think the big thing here is that, you know, you look at these guys, they're clearly in their element. They're feeling so confident. Cold, when he's at his best, what a player. I honestly, it's almost hard to describe the levels, right? Major 1, when they won the FNCS in their region, I genuinely think that peak that Cold had hit as a player individually, one of the best we've ever seen from anybody, right? He was on a whole different level, and he's showing that here today, right now.
I could not agree with you more. Now, what I'm curious about are the standings. Let's take a look together. Let's see how things are unfolding. Remember, we're trying to end the day in the top 25, go straight through to Sunday. Acorn and Cold here in that #1 spot, breaking 200 points. All right, this is day one, guys. Save some for Sunday.
This is what I love to see, you know. I gave a little bit of a sneak peek as to who I was going to be rooting for earlier on in the day, and it was Acorn and Gold. It was the NA boys, and I'm very happy to see them up there. This honestly has big implications for all Spawn, though, right? We got to remember that they're contested, so now they can play a little bit more aggressive in that sense.
Yeah, if you're Pink and Vico, you're looking at these guys going, hold on a minute, we are letting them run away with things. We need to maybe think about putting a bit more pressure on them, making these games a bit more difficult for them. I'm personally looking at some of the players beneath them, right? Queasy and Veno just below. We saw how hot they started the day. They're going to be looking above them thinking, okay, you know, these guys are setting the tempo, but we're going to do our thing up on height while they do their thing down below. It's been weird for Queasy and Veno especially, right? Because we're seeing them so consistently going into these end games in positions to play out height very, very well, right? You know, it's typical stuff for them. But they're having a couple problems, right, where a bunch of their other EU compatriots are very much making things difficult for them, right? Seti and Cammy flanking them in that last game. Typically, Queasy and Veno, very aware of their flanks. That's not something that they often get caught out at. But this time around, we're seeing what happens. Seti and Cammy are there waiting for them.
Gosh, I always have to have so much respect for Cammy and Seti, right? Because I was honestly looking at their position, and it was as that 7th zone rotate was coming in. They were actually towards that castle split. They were based up on top of it, and I was like, wow, they're on the high ground. They have a very good position. And then next zone showed, and it went all the way north, and I was like, yeah, there's no way this is going to end up being a good game. And look at this, Cammy, Seti, they just surprise every single time, and in such good fashion. I mean, you mentioned it, Queasy and Veno, they're usually aware of their flank. How did Cammy and Seti pull this off?
And it's not just playing it off, right? When they're actually in the position, delivering, being able then to actually, you know, hit the shots. Of course, they did get chopped out on height eventually, right? It was Acorn and Cold that did that so well. But I think the big thing with Cammy and Seti is obviously we saw how they started the day, and I think it's fair to say they brushed the dust off their shoulders, right? They didn't allow, you know, losing off Spawn early on to sort of derail their competition. They understood, hey, look, we just got to stick to the fundamentals, get back in the game. We can beat these guys off Spawn, and now they are delivering in the game.
And one more point here about Cammy and Seti. We talked about the all-spawn situation with Acorn and Cold. Now it's similar for Cammy and Seti, right? They're pretty chilling when it comes to the points.
Just wild. And to think this all began, like, their day started with basically no points on the board, right? And their counterparts, Veno and Queasy, getting the Victor Royale. And now they're sitting there attacking them on high ground. This is the story we all came here to see. At least I did. Right into the loving embrace, of course, of Acorn and Cold. Like, yes, bring me points. That's what we want today. You talk about this being a roller coaster. I feel like so many things happened in this game. I mean, we saw Hydra by himself take Rift Island uncontested. At one point, he was getting shot. I was thinking, oh, yeah, they're going to jump. They can tell. Nope. 15 points.
And you might be thinking, Zeke, right? Like, oh, it's so easy, right? Oh, he's up there as a solo. Why don't we just go up there and contest him? I mean, it's got to be the nerves, right? There's so much information that these players are very good at hiding. iDrap somehow got that situation off where he's like, hey, I'm just going to sneak up here. And I'm pretty sure later on, actually, because as we know, Reboot Van on top of the island ended up using it to go ahead and reboot his teammate. So smart.
Absolutely insane. Levin left speechless. Now, we do have something really cool here lined up. It is actually a listen-in to that game-winning moment from Acorn and Cold. Let's take a listen.
We're just gonna crash pad and go. Not now though, but like on the road.
Got it.
Ready? You're gonna jump on the ramp.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do this. I'm just gonna slide.
Yeah, I hit it. We're good.
Just gonna run. Run left, run left. Going deeper. All too low ground. I built the box for you as well.
Nice, bro. Really good job.
Yeah.
Getting heavy.
Are you good?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Good looking right here. Look here. Look at me.
100,
Got it?
120. Break. 20 cone. Got it.
40 white.
Dead,
I got
dead.
it. I'm PC for that one.
Low PC.
There.
I mean, I just have to say it. Every single time I get to hear these guys' comms, Acorn and Cold are so composed, so chill. You'd never think they're sitting at a LAN, you know, the biggest LAN that there is to play, you know, playing one of the most difficult lobbies. They're just there chilling.
I think what impresses me the most, if you look at literally any esport, doesn't matter which one, have your pick, professional comms sound like that. There's a lot of things he could have been calling out. Both of them, though, just sat there. They only called out what was most vital. The most critical thing in that moment, everything else was calm. The moment they find a moment to strike, it's like, okay, let's actually communicate in this moment and get done what we need to do. That's crazy.
I love watching, honestly, the professional players that play at this level. Because, we're thinking about the meta, and we have the mini crash pads that are out now. But it's not a lot of mobility, right? So you have to save a lot of your materials. And the way that some of these pro players do it, we saw it right there where they were kind of talking through that rotate. They're kind of just running in the open a lot of the times, not building. But they find those timings, and that's why they're so good.
And big props once again to Acorn, right? This is a player who you see how Cold is talking about him as an IGL, saying this guy's brain is unmatched. He's the best player, whatnot. Earlier this year, right, when they didn't do as well during Major 2, there were doubts within their relationship, right? There was, conversations about them potentially splitting up. And I had the chance to speak to Acorn about it, and he said, look, hands up, that Major was my fault. I was not up to par, I was not up to standard, but I'm going to fix that.
Okay.
And I think it's safe to say he's fixed it, right? You see the way they're playing right now, and things are clearly in a much better place. They're clearly much more confident in each other, and that's always the key, right? You have to be able to trust your teammates, Zeke, if you're going to have success in a competition like this.
That is why me and Vivid are good at Fortnite when we play zero builds, because I trust Vivid completely. Now, let's kind of focus in on here. We like to kind of discuss Storm Surge strategies. Obviously, y'all at home, I know I could use some help, but something that we kind of saw in something we saw in game was actually Reet and Ritual. They have a very interesting Storm Surge strategy.
Yeah, placing very, very high up on the leaderboard right now. And it's not even necessarily about the Storm Surge strategy. It's about using their drop spot to their advantage. They're going to be dropping towards Creaky Compound, which is pretty central of the map. And if we think about any of the Fortnite zones, right, usually most of them will involve the center of the map in some capacity in those early zones. And the cool thing about Creaky Compound, look at all of these hills that Ritual and Reet can take advantage of. The fact that they're landing there means that they get early priority to a lot of those positions. And every single game, they're going to make sure that they base up on those high ground positions to make sure that any of the players rotating through the center of the map, which, by the way, a lot of players like to rotate through the center of the map, and make sure they can get all the tags necessary for their Storm Surge.
And I think an interesting thing to note, and it's big props to Reet here, when you typically look at discussions around Storm Surge and the ability for people to be effective in tags, you often go, look, controller players, it's a lot harder, right? Long distance, that aim assist ain't as strong. Reet making it look easy, hitting every single shot, bang, 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 bang. You don't care. You don't care. He's hitting everything, right? And so, big props to Reet. That's not an easy thing to do, especially under the pressure as well. Right? We're at the Global Championships once and for all. So, I think for him to be doing as well as he is right now says a lot about him as a player.
Good shout.
Absolutely. You guys are killing it. You guys are great. I love you all. All right. Actually, why don't we go ahead and check out the Creator Lounge? Kelly Link is standing by with a very special creator. Who are you with, Kelly?
Thank you so much, Zeke. And I am here with someone very special. It is Keep Up Radio. Thank you so much for joining me here.
Gosh, thank you for having me.
Okay, so we're 3 games down, 2 to go. What has been your experience so far?
Oh my gosh, I've been having the best time. I think just coming to IRL events and seeing the players play and the crowd get so excited and crazy, it's the best experience for sure.
And what has it been like interacting with all the creators here in the Creator Lounge?
It's been so fun. Shout out to Reddit, shout out to Peach, my people. I love getting to see the people that I interact with online IRL as well. It's really fun.
Well, if we're going to talk about your people, then we got to talk about your favorite team as well. Who is it?
Okay, so I came in not really knowing who I wanted to root for, but Cold and Acorn have stolen my heart. I'm rooting for them. Let's go.
Oh, then you must feel really good. Just them walking away in Game 3 with that victory royale.
I know, it was so exciting. I was getting a touch up right before, and I'm trying to look over oh my gosh, they finally won. So exciting. So I'm excited to see what they do for the rest of the games.
And I'm so excited to hear about what you do with all this Fortnite music. What is the process for creating these incredible songs?
Yeah, it's so fun. I really just try to take pop culture and music and kind of take the elements of songs that we know and love and apply it to Fortnite, and I feel like the people really relate to it, which is so fun and so awesome.
Do you have any songs in the works right now?
Oh my gosh, none that I want to talk about yet.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, but shout out if you know Tilted Tower Dance, go Tilted. That has 100,000 streams on Spotify, and it's a Fortnite song, and I'm so proud of that, so really cool.
Keep Up Radio, thank you so much for joining me here. Where can people find you online?
You can find me on as Keep Up Radio everywhere, and can I just say one more thing?
Yes, of course. Oh my God, thank you again so much. And guys, back to you on the desk.
Go Tilted.
Go Tilted. Go Tilted. Go Tilted. Shout out to you, Keep Up Radio. Again, it's just so cool. We've been doing FNCS for a year now, coming together, bringing everybody into one big pool, just being like, what's up, Fortnite family? It's great to see all of you from different walks of life, from different aspects of the game, all in a single place. How have you guys enjoyed the competition so far?
Yeah, you know, I think the competition is delivering completely for me, right? The atmosphere has been absolutely amazing. The crowd's been going absolutely wild, especially when Thomas HD is on the screen. I know the M8 audience up there, every single time they're on the screen, they've been going crazy. So shout out to everybody that's here.
Yeah, nah, the atmosphere's been unbelievable. And to think, you know, we've got more days of this, right? Coming. We've got Saturday, we've got Sunday. It's going to get even more loud inside of here, which I'm very much excited about. But, you know, even in the server, right, in the game, the players have been delivering, man. I think when you have a competition like this where you have the stakes set so high, you know we're expecting the big names to come out, but they're actually giving us performances, you know, that match up to the status they have. It is a special, special, special day. So I think looking at all the players, hopefully these last two games continue to deliver in that regard. I saw the leaderboard was looking a bit too NA for my liking. So hopefully some more of the EU teams can sneak their way up there. But of course, this is, you know, the upper bracket day. The more important day will be the grand finals to see my EU boys up there.
Yeah, no bias at all. No bias.
No, 100% bias. No,
of course.
Fully biased.
And I'm sure you guys are wondering, what's up with this longer break? Well, keep in mind we're halfway through the day, so we have to give the players a break. Get them to step back, kind of refresh the mentals to come back stronger in these next couple of games. Frankie is actually standing by right here, right now, with Miro and Cooper. Let's take a listen.
I am, and this is such an impressive duo because they came together for Major 2 and qualified for Globals back then by coming second. So, of course, I had to talk to them. Currently in 24th position on the leaderboard. And Cooper, this is your first LAN. Are you happy with how things are going so far?
I think we should be doing a lot better in terms of on the leaderboard. But for my first LAN, I can't complain. You know, I'm having a good time, and I hope we do better.
So how come you've become this fresh-faced IGL that everyone is saying such great things about, given that this is your first LAN?
Starting an IGL role is really hard for me, but I think playing with Mero also, being a great teammate, I think I've improved drastically, and I hope I do better, yeah, hope I do good.
Why did you want to become an IGL?
Being a fragger, I feel like I never got a good IGL, and I wanted to kind of take terms of being the leader in a duo, and I just got lucky to play with the best fragger, so.
Well, I should talk to that best fragger now. Miro, I apologize for leaving you out in the cold as I've spoken to your teammate for so long. But you are regarded as a veteran. This is not your first rodeo. Why did you want to compete here with Cooper?
I think he's a good teammate. He's always grinding the game. You know, that's really about it, honestly. He's just fun to play with, good teammate. And I don't know, we kind of have like a lot in common in terms of like interests and stuff. So he's like easy to talk to about things and like music and all that. So it's just easy, you know?
Have you got a warm-up song that you listen to before you go on stage?
Ski by Sexy Red.
I do not know the song, but that is because I'm not as cool as you two are. So what's the strategy now? How are you going to regroup to try and guarantee that spot in Sunday's grand final today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to get DQ'd, but I feel like I really haven't had a fair chance of playing Fortnite yet, and I think that we just need a little bit more luck on our side, and we're going to be fine.
Okay, well, hopefully the luck will be on your side. Thank you so much for talking to me, gentlemen. I'll let you go and get some food, and I am going to bring in a Londoner. In fact, our only Londoner on LAN, so therefore I'm slightly biased because I'm from London too, if you hadn't noticed by the accent. Pink, currently 29th on the leaderboard. How are you finding things in Copenhagen so far?
I'm finding it good. Despite our placement, I think we're not playing the best, but I'm finding it good, yeah.
Why do you think you're not playing the best yet?
Game 1, we played well. Game 2, there was a minor error making the whole game go to waste. But then Game 3, obviously, contested by Acorn. He was already qualified in 2 games, so he dedicated Game 3 to grief us. So I think he'll continue to do that for Game 4 and Game 5, but that's what happened so far.
Are you thinking you can grief back then? How are you going to respond to this? Because you're not the kind of guy who's going to back down in a fight.
I mean, at this point, they're qualified, so no matter what we do, they're through to the next round anyways. So it's more so a thing where we've got to let go of the grudge and just focus on ourselves for now.
So they're not in your head?
No, not at all.
And how are you finding things with Vico? Because you're a relatively new duo. You came together for Major number 3 and you pulled off what you needed to do to make it to Globals. But this was a surprising duo in some ways. So why do you think it's managed to come together so quickly?
I've been very tough with Vico, and he's like, at the start he was a bit annoying, I'd say, but more so now he's more so making me proud. So I think we're a good duo. We complement each other well, and I like playing with him.
He's a really aggressive player. How did you manage to stop him pressing W in every situation?
I had to fake drop him. I've had to scream a lot. I've had to do a lot of things. I've kind of mentored him in a way, but yeah.
Pink, I'm looking for a coach, so I don't know if we can, once you're done with Globals, you've got the spare time in your hands, are you taking new clients on?
No.
Well, it's a great excuse. It's a great excuse, darn it. But I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. I'll just go solo. Thank you so much for talking to me, Pink, and we will see you out on the battle bus. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for those interviews for the players. Pink is always one that's very honest, Levin. He's going to tell you what's on his mind, and there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think.
Yeah, honestly, it's the best policy. You know, I wouldn't have it any other way. You want people to lie to you? Would I ever lie to you? That's not the way. I never lied. I never lied to you. Look, the one thing I'd say about Pink, right, and Vico is they're in a very tough spot. Because, like he just said, Acorn and Cold, they're basically qualified now, right? They could, not play the rest of the games, and they'll be good to move through to the finals. These guys aren't, right? And so if you're Acorn and Cold and these guys are contesting you, you're going to make their life as difficult as possible. You're going to make sure you can do whatever it takes to guarantee they don't have a chance to contest you come grand final time. So if I was Pink and Vico, I'd be not worried per se, because, this is not a guy that's ever going to be worried, but I would start to be a bit concerned.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely bring up some very valid points, but I think if anything has been proven by some of these performances so far, one good game, right? One victory route with a couple eliminations is worth enough points, 100%, to fly up that leaderboard. So they just got to win that spawn fight one more time.
Do you think they do that, though? Is that the play, trying to kind of keep rolling the dice? Is it just let's find somewhere else, or let's just disengage? What do you guys think?
So it's interesting, right? Because Pink is a player that's very experienced when it comes to being contested, right? You look back all the way to Chapter 3, Season 2, I believe it was contested by Mustache and Malabuko, and they were playing together, and they, were unbelievable, right? And I remember Pink saying to me, I've never experienced that off spawn, right? And they got demolished back then when he was playing with Anas, but he learned a lesson, right? He learned what it takes to be a good off spawn team, and he said to me he had a lot of those sort of similar strategies coming in to try and use against Acorn and Cold, and so maybe now we start to see him start to whip out some of the things he maybe would have wanted to save for grand finals, but use them now to secure a spot for final.
Good stuff. They are sitting there on the bubble, 29th place. Remember, top 25 will be the ones to move on to Sunday's finals. Now, if you find themselves at the bottom 25, they still have tomorrow. Obviously, not the best situation to find themselves in. Vivid right now, Levin makes a great point. If they're kind of pulling out some of these strategies, they might have to. Yes, it very well could get them to Sunday, but if it doesn't, that means that they're going to go into tomorrow's lower bracket, and those 25 players will have watched this. They will have known, okay, well, this is what they're looking to do.
Yeah, I mean, very interesting situation. I don't think anybody wants to be in the situation that they are in right now. But listen, we're at the Global Championships, right? These teams are here for a reason. If 2 games is what it takes for them to actually go through the finals, I guarantee you that they are very, very well capable of it.
Yeah, 100%, right? Again, it is just a matter of doing what they were able to do in that first game, right? He said it himself, that first game, if it was good, they were in that game. They looked good. They looked like a team that was going to continue throughout the day to have pop-offs, but unfortunately it hasn't panned out that way, right? Have to get back to what that was in game 1, and I think it's very possible for this team.
Yeah, so what you kind of just touched on, you guys are just hitting me with the razzle-dazzle right now.
That's what we do.
That's what you do. This is the Global Championships, okay? We're looking for the best duo in the world. There cannot be any question. There has to be a duo that steps up and says, we are definitively better than everybody else. So I feel like at this point in time, we can be a bit more critical about some of these things, right? And we kind of have to be, We can't just say, well, this is a major, you've got weeks 2, week 3, you'll go to, we'll see you in Grands, it's fine. No, this is the end of the line.
You know what? Levin said it. Honesty is the best policy, right? So I'm going to talk about one of the favorites here, right? We took a look at a little bit of the bubble right there, and I saw 23rd place, Thomas, HD, and Malabuka. That is not a very comfortable spot to be.
Not at all. Not at all. And then obviously, when you are the favorite, there's pressure that comes with that. You've got this crowd here that's making all this noise for you. If you are Thomas, HD, and Malabuka, you have to start thinking about, okay, how do we get back into this, right? I think a lot of them, people saw them as a favorite coming into this competition because they are so good. But things haven't been easy, right? The Canada versus an Aegis off-spawn battle hasn't been the simplest of equations for them to solve. And even, beyond that, right? Actually, when they are getting to play out games, the formula, it's not quite clicking, it's not quite working.
That's right. Well, I'm getting word. As much as I'd love to continue this conversation, games are ready to go. So let's kick it up to the casters to get us prepped.
We are here. This is game 4 about to get underway. And I want to give a huge shout out to Kit. But let's go ahead and go to the battle bus because the game starts now. What I was gonna say is a shout out to Cammy and Seti. They had a little bit of a rough start to start the day, but they have shown it just takes one big game to get yourself inside of that top 25. And this being game 4, with only one game left after this, there's only a few spots left for those bubble teams to grab.
And we're looking at a team that definitely needs a good matchup for things to start picking up for them. Podesai, Snazy, starting to get some shots from the sky, but here at the racetrack, we've watched this for 3 games now. 2-1 in favor of Thomas and Malabuka. Kanata trying to see what he can do. It's a double fire, but Thomas, for the time he's gonna go down. Kanata and Agers looking like they could be in a decent position here, but it's Malabuka on the wraparound of the reboot van, trying to make sure that he can keep Thomas and his own hopes alive for this game number 4. Agers, Kanata so incredibly low, but Malabuka down to half HP. Now jumping on top of the building, and the reboot van just barely keeping the hope alive for Kanata and Agers.
Oh, this is gonna be a big save. His chance to get his HP back, and a down on a Kanata. He has no ammo left. This could be huge if Agers could just find a way to just push up. Finish this off, but it's Malabuka who does it yet again.
One of the few times where a tactical DMR is going to look like the saving grace here for Malabuka. Thomas as well with the immediate dap up onto his boy, and for good reason, because this score, it's already being telegraphed. 3-1 now in favor of Thomas and Kanata, and keep in mind, or excuse me, Thomas and Malabuka, but for Agers and Kanata, they're literally in 35th place, and that's bound to get pushed even further back now.
That's where you start to feel the nerves and you feel like you're in the danger zone. We got Cal Gamer, 7-man going up against King and Phaser Kami yet again. This is where it's going to get heated up. He gets a little bit of a first strike, but doesn't really take advantage of it. And a quick reposition out of King and Phaser. This is exactly what you have to do, but the rift does go off. They're trying to reposition and try to have some claim towards that high ground, but they're not able to do too much. They have to concede relentless retreat in order to stay alive.
Right idea, though. Sometimes you just know when a fight isn't yours to make happen. And for 7-man, all his ammo's running relatively low. With that disengage from Phaser, 7-man and Gal Gamer now gonna have ample time to try and loot out relentless retreat. Slappy Shores action has been relatively quiet. We've seen a couple of circumstances with Tayson. Really just nice surge strategy going for the most part at this location. But for Trulix and Chicho, they've also had a relatively quiet time so far.
Yeah, for them, they just got to start building up that confidence. Because even though they'd have the cushion that you could still fall into day 2, we were just talking about it, that's not something you even want to test. Anything can happen in that lower bracket. That's why it's paramount for these teams to qualify today, give themselves a break, a chance to readjust. And Bugha and Threats is one of those teams that's outside of that bubble. And I think that's something nobody would have expected coming into today.
One thing that we've definitely noticed from the past 3 games that have played out so far, Threats and Bugha, they've never been a duo. They've never gotten a chance to actually participate in that late game circumstance together. So maybe here in game number 4, seems as though Threats is on a mission to write his own story. Some nice tags up along the coast side, just south of Sanguine Suites. A lot of pressure being applied to the duo a little bit south of them.
Yep, just like I was talking about with Cammy and Seti, just one big game. This could be the start that Bugha and Threats need to try to propel themselves, if not to the top of the leaderboard, at least inside of that top 25, and that'll give them that chance to readjust. P8 Zin, Kitos, they've been doing well so far as well, and that's something that you want to see. Even if you're qualified already, you want to keep up the pace, continue to build that confidence, because even though you might have Saturday off, you have to be prepared for Championship Sunday. $4 million on the line. That's not something to take lightly.
And again, I think it doesn't necessarily have to be flashy, but for Thomas and Malabuka,
I'm going far, I'm going far.
I got spot. I'm dead, I think. 60 wide, I'm dead. They're both here. He's getting shot in the back, though. He's getting shot in the back. One is running back to farm and one is plant B. They're gonna get siphoned for B. Farm the brick after. Toilet, here. He's alone. Nice! Get.
Yeah, for Thomas and Malabuka, it's definitely looked pretty flashy. When you're going for that 50-50, when you're representing that there's a reason why this is your POI, at least that they're going to be choosing to drop at, or their established drop spot. Racetrack's almost feeling like a POI with how well they have managed to just take hold of it.
Yeah, and I'm not too surprised. It was a couple of majors ago where they were contested. And I wouldn't say it was the highest placing of a contested team ever, but it was one of the highest placings in an FNCS Grand Finals for a team while contested. So they've had that preparation throughout the year, and they're putting all that preparation here to the test. Just like Duke and Edgy, trying to pick up the pace here. They are your FNCS Grand Finals champions of the NA region as well. They already started off with one elimination, so you know they at least have some surge in their back pocket. But as the lobby and the games have shown throughout the day, you need more than just some surge. You need an ample amount of surge in order to survive this game.
And for Duke and Edgy, they need a lot of points as well, because you have to remember they entered Game 4 in that 46th position. So quite a lot of places to jump up in the leaderboard if they want to actually find themselves in that top 25. But right now, leaderboard is the least of Frostroki's concern. Right now, it is all about surviving and maybe, if he's lucky, finding an opportunity here to look for a pickoff onto Yuumi, because Frostroki, if he's able to find this knock, or if he's able to just be patient, he might actually have a chance to look for grabbing his teammate's reboot card if he hasn't already.
Yep.
Full disengage. It's still plenty early enough in the game where a reboot ban opportunity could definitely come up clutch.
Especially here where the zone is pulling forward. A lot of those teams are going to begin to rotate, whether they try to go to the slow side or directly straight towards the center. That is going to be one of the few safe opportunities you will have, as the augments are already beginning to come out. Possible rarity check, and a lot of these teams, you might be saving some of those augments as well, but King and FaZe Kame, you saw them disengage out of Relentless Retreat. They're outside of the top 25, so a game like this is necessary to come out on top, grab as many points as you can, and he's already getting challenged for that high ground, instantly gives up. FaZe and him are a little bit too separated for my liking, and probably theirs as well.
Striker, though, decent top-down overview. But it's going to be Exodus with the immediate trading of that big shield potion, making sure that his teammate is able to maintain as close to full shield as possible. Exodus, meanwhile, hey, you might be looking straight, but there's plenty of teams sure to be looking at you as well. Got to make sure that your backside is covered. And that's going to be an immediate drop down into the safety of their tower that they've managed to build up. Phaser and King, though, just outside of zone, just kind of landlocked for the time being as well on this beach outside of Relentless Retreat. It does not seem as though they're going to have a very easy time working their way in.
Nah, and you kind of saw them there on the leaderboard, 22 points overall. As it stands now, that bubble, that 25th spot is at 58 points. So it's not too far for any one of these teams to really climb up the pace, but the usual Misha and Teeny switching up their drop spot, not liking how their games have been going so far, so they're sticking to what even qualified them to the Global Championship themselves, and that is these sneak attacks. They're going ahead and trying to cut off somebody's boot path and take advantage while they can, and that's QNDX that they're going after, and they have a 2v1 for the time being, and they're wasting a lot of their resources just trying to build for it, because that is the extra loot that they need. Instead of farming up at a drop spot, this is the strategy that they're going to use, but unfortunately enough, their opponent does get away. He finds a way to disengage, so they're going to have to figure out where else they're going to get their loot from.
I don't know if that was intuition, by the way,
Maybe
from
a little
QND, or if maybe some sort of audio cue might have given things away there for Misha and Teeny, but they were certainly ready to pull the trigger a little bit too soon there and didn't let QND actually fully step into the building. And again, it did seem as though QND kind of recognized better, thought that maybe the loot's a little bit too free in this circumstance.
Just a huge beam from Okus, trying to go ahead and get as much surge as possible. I think for someone like him, he's been doing a good job so far, trying to pick up these opportunities where he can. And that's the thing. Reet and Ritual probably didn't even really see exactly where those shots came from, who was surrounded or all around them, and see they're going towards the south side of the zone, that they have to be careful, because as long as they continue to go south, we saw the zone was pulling up. So this will be the congested side. You already see in the mini-map, there are so many teams going ahead and grabbing their spot all around them. That's going to make it that much harder, but Misha and Teeny keeping things on the run. Weapon Cache is going to come up, and that's 7-man and Cow Gamer that they're trying to contest for it. A little bit of a mistake there with the briefcase turret, trying to go ahead and use it to their advantage. Teeny with a nice shot from the side, backs up towards his teammate. 7-man Cow Gamer. This could be their opportunity to try to advance, clean up this elimination, finish the damage you already put down. But for them, it's just grabbing the real estate, grabbing all that piece control, so when the cash does pop, it is all theirs.
Well, as far as 7-man and Cow Gamer are concerned, keep in mind, 7-man, decent loadout to take this challenge up against Teeny and Misha. Left side peek, maybe not the most favorable, but they're certainly still making the magic happen. Builds continuously being edited out for both sides and destroyed in the process here. But Teeny, Misha, they look as though they really want at least one, if not both, of these eliminations now. They know that 7-man and Cow Gamer are bound to have some excellent resources and materials, but again, if you're Cow Gamer and 7-man, we saw their loadouts. They don't necessarily need to pressure this. They've got exactly what they were looking for. It can easily disengage at this point.
Yeah, and being another team that's outside of that top 25 bubble, they're just trying to play the safe game, scrape by, try to get some points, and that's Reet and Ritual are almost trying to do the opposite. They're trying to take the fight to Malibuca and Thomas. Thomas and Malibuca are one of those teams that talked about how good they're playing as a contested duo, but they're in 23rd place. Going down here, no placement points. They only get to 8 points for those eliminations off spawn. This is not what position you want to be in. And you can see they're not playing safe. Even though they did get some damage, they're not going ahead advancing on it. They got their spot in zone, and they're just trying to hold on to it. You see the loot switch. That's respect between teammates as well.
Malibuca definitely understanding that there's a reason Thomas is known as a fragger in the EU region. And with that sharp tooth, seems as though Thomas feeling a little bit more comfortable with trying to aggress even further onto Ritual and Reet, but we'll have to tune back into them a little bit later on here, because keep in mind what Pink said in that mid-game interview, but we'll get more insight on that later on, because right now we've got some great insight coming your way via Mighty Miner.
Thank you so much, Taco. Now, we saw a huge game from Acorn and Cold right there, which basically solidifies their spot in the grand finals on Sunday. We can see them doing everything in their power to make sure that Pink and Vico don't have the same success. Now, Pink and Vico are actually in 29th place right now, so they're just dipping. They're getting out of there. Of course, getting inside the territory of Camry and Seti as well. They don't want anything to do with it. They want to make sure they're avoiding fights as much as possible, because they've only got 2 games to make it happen.
With only 2 games left, you could see with Pink and Vico, they talked about it going down, but as all that happened, Merstash is now in a 1v2 position, trying to back up, trying to do as much as he can to try to stay alive. That's Duke and Edgy on the other side. They need these points, and it's a 2v1 situation, and Merstash is not backing down from the challenge. A nice shot, but that's going to be a miss. Merstash takes a little bit of damage, but he has more than enough heals to try to get himself into tip-top shape, and it's only really a matter of time. Duke and Edgy, if they realize that this man is a solo, that could be their opportunity to strike. At this stage in the game, with only 2 games left, you have to try to get as many points as possible. Even if you don't get in the top 25 here, you want to get yourself as close as possible.
The hesitation, though, is definitely not there as far as Verstroki and Kylie are concerned. They see a solo. They're ready to completely try and run him down, because it's going to be Anshari left to fend for himself here. A nice double elimination there, Verstroki and Kylie. So the plan, clearly a success from their starting point. A great job getting that reboot advance so they could play the game out as a duo.
285 above the Storm Surge threshold. Alex and Worthy trying to take advantage of this opportunity that is right before their very eyes. Peeking around towards the backside of the zone, where they're trying to predict some other teams are trying to find a little spot, a little crevice, anything that they can hang on to. But as you saw on the mini-map, not too many teams are there. Acorn and Cold, you said it yourself. They have already got their spot into Championship Sunday. But you know as well as I do, there's more than just money on the line. There's more than just the Axe of Champions. It's about calling yourself the best Fortnite duo in the world. And that's what Cold and Acorn came to do. Specifically Cold. He was at the Invitational along with Acorn, different duos, but he placed third. He fell just shy of both Queasy and Vino and Cammy and Seti. And he's out for redemption here as Merstash in another 1v1. He takes out Oak, trying to keep the show alive.
So unfortunate for Oakis, but Merstash, he might have found one elimination. He's got a lot more work ahead of him, though, just from this position alone here at the Creaky compound. As a solo, Merstash is really gonna have to try and play things safe from the backside of zone. Probably gonna have to wait, recognizing the fact that there's some other teams around him, but no, actually, he can't afford to play safe because the surge damage threshold has just tapped in. And with that in mind, Merstash now, it is essentially now or never. He's got to make a play. He's got to find some damage, and he is just barely managing to put himself into that safety net threshold. But he's looking to challenge for more.
That's just a daring play. Very, very brave, but that's something you kind of known from Merstash, one of the more mechanically skilled players in the EU region overall. He's willing to take those chances. He's willing to bet on himself, but since he didn't land a shot and didn't cover the distance, he's just trying to disengage. You said it yourself as well. He's just trying to find his way in towards the zone instead of waiting, letting time pass by, and having all those duos pass him and try to hold him out. I think that was a perfect play for him to try to find his spot inside of the zone. But a team that needs to not only find their spot into the zone, they need to find damage, and they need to start to build that groove. 77 below, continuously falling. They're taking some time to try to get some resources, but that's the decision you gotta make. What's more important, Storm Surge or resources to try to survive?
Granted, there is kinetic ore available for King and Vaser to utilize, but unfortunate stuff there. It doesn't take them quite as far as they were hoping for, and now with that sound going off, seems as though teams on the hill have definitely taken. Oh, a beautiful shot though from King. That suppressed sniper rifle might be the main reason why they weren't as concerned, but they're still below on surge damage. Another shot like that though, and they might just be ahead.
Nope, luckily there on the tail end. Couple of shots go through, 65 above. They do get the knock, but chances for them to be able to take advantage might not necessarily be there, but that's not necessarily what they were looking for. They were looking to move through. They were looking to get themselves a spot in towards the zone, and this is a replay of that shot. Just amazing coming out from King, while the pressure is on as well. He is one of the teams outside of that bubble that needs to put in that work.
And let that be a reminder, I think, for some of these teams, even if you have that height positioning, if you peek just a little bit too far, get a little bit too comfortable, well, a player like King, he'll make sure to take care of that for you.
Yeah, and a lot of these players, you know, they might lose sight of that suppressed sniper being in the game. They might forget, or they might be forced to peek to get the surge for themselves. And those are the opportunities we've been seeing all day, but danger happens. Duke goes down to paper from one team that has their spot for a team that's fighting for it. That leaves Edgy all by himself trying to clutch up. Acorn and Cold, first place on the leaderboard. They're faring well with that Storm Surge, even though they're just forced to continue to move north in this zone. They're bypassing a lot of those teams that are on that Rift Island, which honestly looks a little bit more active than we've seen in some of these previous games.
But for Cold and Acorn, when you know for a fact that you're already guaranteed that Championship Sunday, like we just talked about, they could do essentially whatever they want, even if it means just completely running down some other teams. Yeah, again, Pink and Vico talked about it. They mentioned it. Edgy and Duke, though, still looking to work together here as all these teams continue to pile in to the Eclipse to stay the way the zone is pulling. Mildly unforgiving, given some of the water surrounding the area, but definitely something that these teams can work with.
See the little bounce pad junior trying to boost themselves to the front side of the zone. They don't want to be one of the last teams there. And unfortunately enough, they will be in the back of the pack, but they instantly are trying to build for some elevation. They don't want to get stuck on that low ground, especially in this zone. That was what I was about to say. It could be a roller coaster of emotions. We're going up mountains. We're going across rivers. Anything can happen here, and they get into the box. Duke's being forced back. A lot of damage is there. He's going to get knocked. It's all up to Edgy, and their run comes to an end in 34th place. That leaves their backs up against the wall in our 5th and final game.
Yeah, Acorn and Cold do not care. It does not matter who it is. As long as you appear in front of them as a target, they will look to eliminate you. And they've been extraordinarily successful all day so far today. Malabuka and Thomas, though, they've also had a pretty solid day as well, Jacob. But again, this is definitely an instance where they could look to cement themselves in that top 25 if Game 4 goes well.
See them just trying to get that damage. Bro Bob goes down. But at least his teammate Axe Force is still alive, trying to grab them as many points as possible. But at least they're inside or at that 10th place spot for now. Probably got it secured, but you don't want to leave it up to a prop, but you don't want to leave it up to the judges. As you see another replay. Oh my gosh, what did we just witness from King? Does he go back to back? There is no way. This man is on fire. I dare anybody on that stage to try to step in his path now because he's looking like an avalanche trying to demolish anything in his way.
Look at the loadout, the double suppressed sniper rifle. He's even got the sniper surplus augment to boot, and he is making fantastic work of it. But Strokey and Kylie, I am so sorry, but King, actually, that's his turf.
You back a dog into a corner. This is exactly what is going to happen. They realize the pressure that they're under. They realize what's at stake. Even though they do have tomorrow, if they fall short, that's not something anybody wants to stress about. You finish the job here, you get it done, you give yourself a break, a chance to relax, and VOD review. Blaha, Mixon, another one of our teams that we've seen do great things throughout the year. 157 above the damage threshold, even though that might not seem like a lot, but from what we've seen like from the lobby, there's a lot of teams that are around those similar numbers, but luckily for everybody, returns off for now. Even though it wasn't a far rotation with the Bounce Pad Junior, it's just step by step. That's the way a lot of teams got to take it, just one foot in front of the other.
And for Blaha and Mixon, it's certainly one tarp in front of the other as they keep trying to make their way forward. Look at Cammy and Seti, though, all the way at the very top of Eclipse's state. And this is some primo real estate if you are Cammy and Seti. But it does seem as though they're going to have to disembark from this little throne that they've established for the time being, but not without laying some suppressive fire to everyone below them first.
Yeah, and leaderboard, kind of see the top side of what's going on. But 19th, 20, 21st place, down. 24th place, down. 26th place, even down. So if you're outside of that bubble for now, this is your chance to shine. This is your chance to pick up those points. And you kind of saw it at the start of the day with Queasy and Vino. 90-plus points for that Victory Royale combined with 7 eliminations, so anything is definitely possible. And that's why Bugha and Threats are putting themselves to the test now. They have 4 eliminations and barely any placement points just left. There's 24th place and 24 teams still left alive, so there's still so many possible points up for grabs.
But the best part is Threats and Bugha, they're at least still together as we enter this late game, which is something we have not really had a chance to see from this duo all day today. It's been repetitive as far as solo clutch circumstances are concerned, and they just haven't really been able to bring anything to fruition because of that. Pink and Vico, though, under a lot of pressure here from Malabuka and Thomas. So many other teams surrounding them. Sometimes it can be really difficult to tell just which direction your builds are actually getting targeted from.
They survived the off-spawn battle between Acorn and Cold. This is their chance to shine, even though they don't have much to work with. We've seen them do amazing things before. Vico, one of the more aggressively skilled players, and forget on top of the world when it comes to Fortnite. They're going astronomical, building off of the moon towards Relentless Retreat, trying to hold on to their high ground. They have the rocket ram for backup as well. So if anybody looks up, tries to chop them down, they do have a plan B. Pink getting a couple more eliminations. Thomas, Malabuka, bypassing everybody else. They're trying to stay to the front side of the zone, looking back only when they have to. They have their eyes set on the prize for now.
But I wonder if anybody realizes just how far up Cammy and Seti are. Vico, he needed a refresh instead. He'll find himself waiting for game number 5 to begin. As Seti, Cammy, we see Seti up so right now with the rocket grab. Who he comes crashing down on is another story to be decided because Yamzo and Rise, they're under fire right now. Yamzo's gonna drop all the way to the water. Realizes, tries to escape, but not able to. Mixon and Blaha instead, the only ones seemingly able to continue pressing forward in this mid-low ground layer.
4 solos running around this lobby full of duos. Queasy and Vino, again, these guys are impressive, consistently finding a way to go for that high ground. Just a test here, just like in the first game, they're looking to hold on to it, get that victory royale. Another elimination being found by Malibuca. Their total as a team does move up to 5. 12 teams remain. These are the points that they were looking for. They started this game in 23rd place. This game alone, if they come out on top, could qualify them to Championship Sunday, but the fight continues. Cold and Acorn just trying to tear everybody down, even if that means it's their NA counterpart as Pars and Baka fall.
There's one thing that Cold loves to do, it's play disruptor on the low ground layers. Because now Seti, Cammy, they're actually going to be able to retake height because Queasy and Veno, they're no longer here. At some point, they winded up falling. Queasy himself potentially eliminated from this match. We're seeing everyone below, Cammy and Seti, just doing what they can to stay alive. But Thomas and Malibuca, they have been on a rampage in these lower layers.
Yep. Cammy gets another one onto Muzz, finding him as a solo. Another player is going to drop. Spinx and Pollo, who absolutely came out of nowhere on the NA region to claim their spot here in Major 2, but they don't want just the spot, they want to take over. Thomas finds another elimination, taking down Seti. Now the high ground has changed, and they're trying to keep it for themselves. Acorn gets sniped out of the air with the Sharptooth, and now we're into our final 4 teams left alive, but 2 of them are solos. One of them is Cammy. He's trying to do what he can to try to bypass with that men miss, falling down low to the low ground. He goes down. A 2v2 situation. Spinx and Pollo drop them into the palm of their hands, but a nice shot's gonna be traded off. But it down onto Thomas, and they take the game. NA on top, thanks to Pollo and Spinx.
What a massive comeback, though, from Pollo and Spinx. I mean, 12 eliminations, given that they were in such a dire position heading into this match. That is a massive point swing here, Jacob. That might just be enough to even make them surface in our top 25.
And they might have snatched away the single game elimination record, but I'm gonna let Frankie talk about that, because there she is on stage with our winners.
Yeah, I just had to come in and ask everything you were saying in that final zone, because your mouth was going off. How were the comms?
I don't know. Pollo just doesn't really talk. Kind of just, gets kills, does his thing, and I'm just, there for the ride,
And do you just are happy to let him off the leash like that?
I mean, if he gets the kills, I got no problem with it.
And Pollo, your ear's burning now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is a man of few words. He is a man of few words. He was so what, sorry?
He was so loud.
He was incredibly loud. To be honest, I felt like I could hear him backstage. So for you, how has the day been so far? Now you've got your victory royale as well.
Yeah, it's been 2-1 off spawn. I think we're at the bottom of the leaderboard, but I think we'll be near qual range now.
Hopefully, we will take a look at the leaderboard shortly. I love this. You're a man of so many words. I can hear him in the background going 2-1, 2-1. Is there anything you'd like to say to people watching right now and supporting you?
It's really laggy. It's really laggy. I mean, these servers are atrocious, but we're making it work.
Well, you know what? Everyone is in the same boat, and it's fantastic to see you guys doing so well. As you say, 2-1. Are you going to make it 3-1 now?
I mean, that's the only option.
It is the only option. Hopefully you are closer to qualifying for Sunday. If not, you'll get to play again tomorrow, and you'll get to show why NA is potentially the best region. What would you say it is already?
Obviously.
Obviously, of course. He's a little bit biased. Pollo, I know you're a man of few words, but give me one more. What's it like to play in Copenhagen?
It's different. It's not the same as at home.
That's the most words, and I loved it. Thank you so much. Congratulations, everyone. Spinx and Pollo!
Well, Evan. NA on top. What do you have to say now?
Look, I just want to start by saying, I love how Pollo's just won the game, hype moment, and all he's thinking is like, can Spinx just stop talking? He's talking too much. Like, can you just pipe down a bit, mate. That's his only concern about that game. All I have to say is, right, after that, Thomas HD and Malibuca were popping off. It looked like they were going to win the game. The crowd was getting loud. When Spinx win the game, everyone's just like, what did we just watch? Like, the shots Spinx and Pollo were just hitting at the end there, Vivid. Insane.
From the low ground as well, and yeah, I mean, you got to give the positional advantage there 100% to Thomas, HD, and Malibuca, right? High ground is usually what wins games in Fortnite, but the shots, like you mentioned, I mean, it's just too clean, and usually I give my respect to Acorn and Cold, because usually they're so good on the low ground. Pollo and Spinx, they're looking a little bit better, especially in this game. because they were just getting
Look at this.
elimination.
Look at this.
after
Look at this.
elimination. Boom. That's the winning shot right there. You make it a 2v1, clean it up easy.
Just disgusting. This one, I feel like I could say this about every game we've seen so far. They have been roller coasters from, you know, Seti and Cammy up on high ground, them going straight up, then suddenly it's Queasy and Veno. Just kidding, it's back to Seti and Cammy. Now it's Thomas HD looking to contest. I mean, this is what I want to see, is people get more comfortable. People say, look, we're just not going to let people go for the high ground. We want this too.
Yeah, 100%. And look at this, right? They were talking about it. They were towards the bottom of the leaderboard. Look at that placement now, 15th, right? That question mark was there. I think we're in qual range. You are definitely in qual range if you are 15th right now. A couple more points might secure it for you, but it is looking good for them right now.
Yeah, if they can keep hitting shots like that, they'll be well on their way to being in that qual range and being secure, right? So I think the big thing from them is not to let this win almost, you know, get them too excited, right? Stick to what's been working for you and sort of go with that going into this last one. I mean, again, I'm just still mesmerized by some of the shots they were hitting. They were putting on a clinic in that end game.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that, you know, you have one in Sphinx that maybe talks a lot by what they would consider each other, and then Pollo doesn't talk apparently at all. But yet they're sitting here racking up 12 eliminations in game number 4 of the Global Championship upper bracket. I did not think we'd see any duo break double digits, and they just went on and did it, Vivid.
Yeah, absolutely incredible stuff. Now we get the opportunity to look at the standings. Acorn and Cold, they're pulling away with their lead, still in first place, but Queasy and Veno also managed to hold on to second place, and Cammy and Seti, they are on the rise.
That top 3 looks all too familiar, right? You look at, if you were to analyze this whole year and look at who have been the best teams all across the world, these guys, you know, that top 3 in particular has just been 3 of the biggest names you'd mentioned.
For sure. Yeah, but Levin, Zeke, I'm looking towards 10th place right now. Thomas HD and Malibuca, right? I said 23rd place coming into this game. It wasn't comfortable. So they went ahead and clutched up this game. But there was more than just one clutch this game.
Yeah, they were going crazy, right? You know, I think we all talked about how they needed to start to step it up, and they finally did. Malibuca and Thomas started to cook. And I think we know them as being incredible individual players, but when they start doing things like this, Thomas going up on height, he doesn't care who's there. He just knows he wants it, and they take it so well. Of course, his Pollo and Sphinx win the game, and they sort of shut them up with a really big shot. But these guys throughout that end game were incredibly dominant, showing off why they are revered as one of the favorites for this tournament.
And I wonder what put them in a situation where they didn't have those mats, right? What led up to that ultimately where, because if they had materials, it feels like that's an easy closeout, right? But they're kind of put in this situation where Pollo and Sphinx, on the low ground of all things, they have materials, they have the angles. You're sitting there like a fish in a barrel, like, yep, we're gonna jump down. You've got your angles. We hope we'll hit ours.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when you go up for high ground right, we saw them, they had to go ahead and contest the high ground right when they got the eliminations. It takes a lot of materials to go ahead and actually build up there. You have to make sure that all of your builds kind of stay supported and stuff like that. So that's probably why they were out of materials. And then not to mention Pollo and Sphinx just picking up so many eliminations on the low ground, almost impossible for them not to have those builds necessary.
Of course, right? When you're racking them up over and over and over again, you're sort of just, even if it is just siphon that you're getting, right, it goes a long way, whereas Thomas and Malibuca weren't quite able to loot everything that they were getting.
Yep.
Just, you know, part of the trade, especially when you're up there on height as well towards the end of a game. Standard procedure, but they won't be upset with that game. They'll be very happy, especially when you look at the previous games they've had.
And, you know, I got to mention it, right? That Thomas HD Malibuca clutch all spawn. Malibuca with the 1v2. Actually awesome stuff. And honestly, coming into this, they should have been expecting stuff like this, because throughout this chapter, Malibuca and Thomas, they have done that 7 times where one of them have gone down early and they've clutched it up.
No easy feat, especially when you look at the competition they've been facing. Thomas, towards the start of the day, said, look, I've faced much better competition off spawn than Canada and Aegis, right? So I'm used to doing this. And if he's able to 1v2 against players like that, they'll be confident they can 1v2 against Canada and Aegis as well. So really good to see that happen. Like you said, the 2 clutches for them in that game.
You guys talk about Thomas HD, and I'm thinking Thomas HD, probably one of the best snipers in the world. Then I kind of flash back to mid-game. I want to just quickly highlight King with 2 of the back-to-back most disgusting snipes we've seen today.
Unbelievable. King is the kind of player that's always going to give you that special moment, right? You know, we all think back to the World Cup times, right? When he eliminated TFU, we were all hyped thinking, we were on earth is this Argentinian kid taking out TFU, right? Here again today. We expect Thomas HD to be the sniper machine, King sitting everybody down. You were saying it during the game, right? They were 200 down below Surge, and then a couple minutes later, they're 600 above. That's ridiculous, all from his snipes alone.
Those shots were absolutely clutch for sure. But now let's talk about the clutch that is necessary for teams that are in the bubble.
That's right, 25. The top 25 will go on to Sunday. Take a look right now. M. Sherry and Rue sitting on that bubble. 68 points is the minimum going into these next games. Just take a look at some of the names, even just down there in 30th, right? Cooper and Miro right there on the bubble. Kitos and PH as well. But as we've seen, it just takes one good game, and you can just change everything. Now, even look at 31st, Podesai and Snazy. M8, y'all out there? Yo, Snazy and Podesai?
They're asleep, man.
There they are. Y'all can hear them in the crowd. They're going crazy. But even someone like Bugha and Threats, right, they've kind of been relatively quiet, currently sitting in 34th. They can make up the ground, but they really need to come online here in this last game.
Yeah, 100%. You know, we are at the Global Championship, right? Let's talk about regional representation in that top 5 or top 25 right now. EU, there are currently 13 duos. NA currently has 8 duos, and then 1 per each of the regions in OCE, Brazil, Middle East, and Asia. So that is currently what the regional breakdown is looking like so far through the upper bracket.
Yeah, I think for me personally, the NA teams have impressed so much, right? Of course, they do make up a big part of the lobby, but I think what we've seen is not just the trailblazers, the typical NA teams you expect to dominate, some of the ones just in that beneath tier, right, that have come through and really made their mark on this competition, right? Showed us that they aren't just here to sort of hang around and enjoy, you know, Copenhagen and have a good time, find a girlfriend, some of them were saying, right? Some of them are here to actually try and win, right? That's what it's all about for them, right? So, you know, the priorities on a lot of these NA players are clearly, you know, to come here and show EU, show the other regions what they got.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about this back in Major 2, right? At the end of it, I asked you the question, Levin, do you think NA hangs if we get to Globals? At the time, it was no. Right, and I think for a lot of players in NA, they're thinking, okay, 11-2K, we'll see you at LAN then. Because it feels like NA is playing with a chip on their shoulder, and I also kind of want to play a little bit of devil's advocate. What if we're revealing strategies a little too soon? What if EU is like, yeah, you guys are ahead. That's cool. Then Championship Sunday, they're like, okay, so we were just holding it all back. You know, we were letting you play out there thinking you had something. It's all a show.
Maybe not an element of showing strats too early, but definitely let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? You know, it's just day one. It's just the upper bracket, right? The final's coming, right? And that's when we got to be looking at the leaderboard and really going, okay, how are the NA teams doing? How are the EU teams doing? I think once we get to that point, Zeke, that's when we can really start to give that analysis of, you know, regionally around the world, who looks the strongest. I'm still going to say the EU boys, right? But there are some top NA teams out there that are showcasing that they can hang with anyone.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, you know, NA teams are finding themselves out there. I'm very happy to see so far the performance out of some of the top ones.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the stats we're seeing here out of the competition so far. This is the upper bracket. Let's break it down by the numbers. Currently, as we look at this list. Okay, most eliminations. Here we go. Acorn and Cold, that's not surprising, right? They're currently sitting in that #1 spot. It makes sense. Queasy and Veno right behind, though. Do you guys feel like this is the level of aggression we would see coming into day #1 of the competition?
For me, probably, yeah, I'd say, right? I think, especially seeing those two teams there is great for me in terms of Acorn and Cold, you know, Queasy, Vino. I look at Vino, I look at Cold as individuals. Throughout the year, they were the two players I think were going head-to-head for, you know, best player in the world a lot of the year. And so to see them up there in terms of eliminations just makes sense.
You'll love to see it. Guess what? Fortnite fam, it is time. The last game of the day here in the upper bracket is about to kick off. So casters, on over to you.
Thanks so much, Zeke, Vivid, and Eleven for all the insight on the analyst desk. But our final game of today's upper bracket, match #5, is just on the horizon. We've seen so many teams now in that 26th to 50th position trying to escalate themselves into the top 25 so that they don't have to worry about tomorrow's lower bracket matches, Jacob. they want to make sure that they are already guaranteed for Championship Sunday.
Yeah, and if you look at that leaderboard, as our analyst broke it down, some teams, they just have to do the bare minimum. Other teams, they need a top placement, and then some teams need a win and you're in scenario. And I just want to go ahead and talk about Kanata and Agers, Thomas and Malabuka. Thomas and Malabuka have narrowly clinched their spot. You saw them into the top 10. Kanata and Agers around 39th place. They're one of the teams I'm talking about, a top 10 finish, but they have to be able to survive that off-spawn battle, which hasn't really been going their way today.
Even just now, we saw the collection of players just outside of where Queasy and Veno are sitting. I mean, it was Threats. We also saw Kanata there, and the conversation that he looked like he was having with Thomas, maybe he's like, hey, man, chill on me at that Drift Ridge, because this 50-50 is not the kind of 50-50 that Kanata and Agers were hoping for at the start of today. But again, when you keep in mind the fact that Kanata and Agers, coming out of being recent FNCS champions from Major 3, I'm sure they have it in them to make the comeback.
Yeah, and I think Pollo and Sphinx from NA have really shown. And one thing I want to talk about is when the regions were separated, when we had NA East, when we had NA West, nobody gave NA West a single chance. Even myself said it might take a month. It might take a major for them to get in that groove, but there are a number of not only NA teams, but these NA players boosting to the top of the leaderboard that we could see on Championship Sunday. And then obviously our regular NA residents towards the top side of that leaderboard as well, Cold and Acorn. And I want to talk about them just a little bit as well. You saw Pink and Vico, but we're going to see them here again because the battle bus is ready. Let's get this last and final game underway.
It has been a beautiful day so far of matches containing our 50 teams here in the upper bracket. Some of the strongest teams even from their respective regions, but only 25 can actually break through and guarantee themselves a seat on that battle bus for Championship Sunday. We've seen a handful of them in the top 10 feeling relatively safe, but the relief can't come quick enough for those teams just outside the top 25.
And I can count at the top of my head at least 3 of these off-spawn battles that would decide if a team goes towards the lower bracket or at least gives themselves a chance to get to that top 25 to earn that Championship Sunday spot themselves. And this is going to be one of them. Malabuka and Thomas, Agers and Kanata, and judging by their elevation, it is on.
It's looking like Agers might have the beat on the punch, though. Agers and Kanata quicker as far as the drop is concerned. Opening of the chest, but it's a tactical DMR here that Kanata's got to work with, trying to break Thomas's initial builds. Agers gonna follow it up with the Maven Auto. That's gonna be Thomas down for the count. 1 knock already. Agers taking full advantage of the Siphon as well. And another benefit is the weapons that came with it.
Yeah, basically gave himself a full loadout minus the heals, and you see Malabuka now on the run, grabs that slurp truck, and now he has decisions to make. Do I try to fight the 2v1 while I have the underhand, or do I go ahead and try to disengage and just already see it on the mini-map? He's just trying to survive. Even though they did lose the off-spawn battle, they know they have their spot secured, so now it's just for bragging rights.
Extremely unlikely that we see Malabuka try to lap back anytime soon here at the racetrack. He knows that it's going to take some time before Agers and Kanata fully clear this area out. And if he wants to get Thomas's reboot card, he might force himself into waiting. But the wait is over as far as Threats and Bugha are concerned. That's going to be a quick elimination to start things off for a team that desperately needs it.
Yeah, you see Threats taking advantage of what is usually a triple chest on the side of that mountain. Mixing goes down. That's not only important points for Bugha and Threats, that's a Storm Surge to really give themselves a little bit of a cushion, because we know that's not going to be enough. But another one of our off-spawn battles that are paramount for our team success. King and Phaser, Cowgamer 7-man, shots are being fired. Phaser's gonna quickly disengage. He doesn't want to give up too much. He wants a chance to heal. You see, he has big pots, and if King can get to him, that'll allow him to heal up as well.
But even with the vault card, Phaser, he can't charge into it just yet, unless Cowgamer and 7-man have it in their best interest to just prioritize that. But King applying a little bit of pressure here from a distance. Keep in mind the resources, though. Builds not looking the best as far as 7-man is concerned. And CalGamer, again, seems as though he has none at all. So this is definitely going to put CalGamer and 7-man's push to a halt, and that is more than enough time for FaZe and King to get into the vault here at Relentless Retreat.
Yeah, both of these teams need to have a solid performance if they want to see Sunday right here. Otherwise, they'll have to go to the lower bracket and earn it yet again. But you see a switch up of what we saw last game. King and FaZe this time around getting control of that ball over towards Relentless Retreat. But instead of just disengaging, 7-man and CalGamer are still looting up. There's a lot of loot there to grab, and what a huge battle going down yet again. But Cammy and Seti, they're separated, but they're trying to pincer them in. They're trying to surround from multiple angles and trap them in that little barn.
One of the most common fights that we've seen so far today. And Stain and Datas, though, holding their own. Now, what a way to represent Asia, though. I mean, we talk all the time ever since the Invitational, really, where we saw some of the potential, I think, from Asia's fraggers. And so Datas and Stain looking to try and follow that up as much as possible. They have been going toe-to-toe here with Cammy and Seti. And granted, Frenzy Fields hasn't necessarily always gone their way, but it's definitely made a little bit of an impact against Seti and Cammy because they had to go nuclear, basically, the last 2 matches to play catch-up.
Another one gonna break down a lot of early game skirmishes with your back up against the wall. It almost leaves you no choice but try to get the elimination points. Axe Force, Robob going against PHN and Kitos. Kitos and PHN actually do need this. They are outside of the bubble, 26th place, and a nice shot to try to back down Axe Force. They pounce, they get the 2v1, give themselves at least a 1-man advantage. Kitos trying to heal up. They're not wanting to give them that opportunity. Drop them down into the palm of their hands. They're attacking from both angles. Time is running out unless a miracle happens here as Axe Force a little bit of a jump ball and a misstep, but his teammate is there to rise to the occasion and get that elimination. So we see our first team in the lower bracket facing against our last chance major teams.
PHN and Kitos try their best. Kitos especially in that instance, but you got one below you, one above. Difficult for anybody to actually find themselves on the Benefactory.
I like this. I like this. Pink may have called it griefing, but no, this is just using your brain. Acorn and Cold, even though they've already qualified, letting Pink and Vico qualify off of their spot, which means they're going to get contested again on Sunday. So they want to make sure that team has as little loot, push them back as much as possible. As Anon and Suns, they need a big game here going against Queasy and Vino, who already got their spot secured. And I like the aggressive nature coming out of this. Start to build that confidence, get some points, and then you could probably take what they've been doing and put it to the test yourselves. But it all really comes down here if they want to actually fight it, because Anon looks like he's disengaging. He doesn't want to get trapped between both Vino and Queasy.
This is a very risky team to try and tango with when your position in that top 25 is on the line here. Suns and Anon, they cannot afford to get eliminated just yet. But Queasy and Veno, they're not the sort to let anything go. We've got some player listen-ins coming our way, starting with Kanata.
I got a Maven. 16 white. Going to you. I'm running.
He's on my right. Yeah, run at him, run at him.
20 white.
Kill him. 40 white, 40 white, 40 white.
Nice. Oh, the one's at the height. He's at the height.
Get the finish, get the finish.
They're dead.
Nice. We need a cam, bro.
He's running back. He's just running to rise. He's trying to not give us the kill points.
He's at the hut right now. 9 damage? No, he ran, bro. We just camped the card. He's a great...
See a lot go down in that listen-in. The great teamwork, the great chemistry, but then the plan for the future. They're going to camp that card so that way Malibuca can't come back and get it safely, which leaves him as a solo at the start of the game. So remember that, because if he does amazing things, he did it all by himself. As Vino just so much damage from the storm with just a sliver of HP. You gotta imagine as it continues to pop low. Yeah, I was gonna say a med kit's probably getting popped. Queasy does have some splashes. He's just trying to hound, be the predator towards his prey. Suns and Anon gotta figure out what they're going to do, because they're just getting followed right now by Queasy and Veno.
And Ken, that's definitely not the team that you want trailing behind you, because just like that, Queasy's gonna give some quick reminders of what he's capable of. But for Misha and Teeny, they've also got to deal with Baka and Pars, and again, such an impressive day so far from Baka and Pars. We've really been seeing them take an aggressive stance and come out on top in numerous situations. And I would expect to be all the same here. And Kanata and Agers, even though Racetrack might have gone their way, running into Yamzo and Rise is a different story altogether, as Agers now forced to bounce, has to leave Kanata to be eliminate collected. And they went from wanting to camp Thomas's reboot card to now Agers potentially having to worry about whether or not they do, that Yamzo and Raz will do the same to Kanata.
Yeah, this is very troublesome for Agers and Kanata, the duo that needs at minimum a top 10 performance here in this game if they're looking to skip Saturday and go directly to our championship. But a fight that we saw start as a 2v2 ends up in a 1v1. Baka gets the piece control away from Teeny, not really letting him get any footing in this round. The real estate here and that piece control is going to be important. And another shot getting fired. Teeny getting back down little by little. Baka just playing a game of peekaboo. It's working out for him, but everything good comes to an end eventually. And Baka takes a massive shot. The thing here, it doesn't matter where he's at because he goes down. And the only place he's going to be is back to the lobby.
That was a huge shot here for Teeny, but it's not over just yet. Bryce and Chubbs now deciding to join the fray. Teeny gonna look to see if he can find an escape route somehow, or at least an opportunity to get this revive going off onto Misha. And Chubbs, Bryce, they don't seem like they're fully aware just how far back Teeny and Misha actually are. So a successful revive does come through. A 2v2 potential situation here, but again, Misha and Teeny bound to be relatively low on resources after that last engagement.
You got to imagine it to be true. That's Teeny trying to hold the covers, give his teammate some time, try to heal up. First is going to be the med kit. Now it's going to be the shields. And the forecast tower hasn't even been taken yet. That's what they were originally fighting over. And that's probably what drawed Bryce and Chubbs over to this direction. But they don't know that he was weak necessarily. So for them, they're just trying to play the game. They're outside of that top 25. They want to give themselves a fighting chance to get towards that championship Sunday and not really fight towards that Saturday. As we tune on to Agers. You can see him just trying to go ahead and bypass everything. But let's go ahead and go and listen in to see what happened in the beginning of this game.
I mean, when he gets in, I'll be able to see him and just run. 30-60 on him.
Nice.
I got headshot sniped through the bush. This is so sad, man.
Oof. That is really all that can be said in some circumstances. Yamzo is actually just a monster for that one. I mean, and if you're in Kanata's position as well, sometimes it is what it is. But Yamzo, he's got a lot more to deal with for the time being. Being a little lackadaisical in the rotation, quickly reminded that there's still other players waiting around in this lobby for him.
And you can see towards the mini-map, we're on kind of edge of zone towards the southeastern side, and that's where a lot of these caches will spawn, either south towards the east, where a lot of these teams are congested at. And just judging by the lack of the slurp juice, they haven't grabbed theirs just yet. They're hoping to try to beat another team to that punch. And even though they found some dangers there, just a little bit, you can see that they have not too many teams nearby, as we see the other side of what went down. And the headshot onto Mappy. That is a huge he is just on fire. He's feeling it. Look at the confidence.
Can't blame him at this point. It's just, what are you really meant to do in that sort of situation other than just fall victim to Yamzo there? But fortunately for Agers and Kanata, they're still going to be able to play things out as a duo. Successful reboot ban there for Agers. The health replenish as well. They've got a handful of slash splashes left to work through. So it's seeming as though the dream is still alive for Agers and Kanata.
For now, at the very least, but sometimes those are the wake-up calls you need, especially when you know it's our 5th and final game of the day. And while they're facing all that madness on that side of the map, Bugha and Threats sticking to what they know works, which is those slow side rotations. They found themselves towards the top side of the zone and kind of just looking. There's not too many teams in their mini-map. And if you look even further, there's only about 3 teams directly in front of them. So they got themselves a safe spot as long as they continue to pull that zone. And my only question, Taco, is going to be how much surge do they have? Because if they're on the slow side, there's not going to be many opportunities to grab it.
That's exactly what I wanted to bring up, because with only 1 elimination, and from what we've been seeing consistently throughout today, there have been circumstances where teams have had several or more eliminations and still found themselves just barely above that surge damage threshold. So if Bugha and Threats making these dead side rotations, yeah, you might have the best positioning in the world, but it doesn't really mean a whole lot if you don't have any damage with it, because then you still have to compromise your positioning ultimately just to find some damage.
That's
damage
big.
is something they do plenty here for Acorn and Cold.
I was going to say that was big, but it comes to an end yet again, and Pink and Vico outside of that top 25. So I think Cold and Acorn have defended their drop spot. They're actually in 24th place. They have 74 points. That's going to be a tough one to watch.
Eyes on Cooper and Miro as well. One of our teams in that 28th position, but for the team on our screen right now, Vaniac and Karmi, they've also got to ensure that they're able to stay within this top 25, because again, just barely being above as far as the points are concerned, it does not leave you in a guaranteed position. There are ample teams that could look to leapfrog over you if you aren't careful. So we'll definitely keep that in mind and continue trying to be as methodical as possible with their movements.
Yeah, you can basically see the tail end of that top 25. Pink and Vico down 74. Batman, Bugha, and Rapid 80. The points continue to climb the more you go up. A lot of these teams don't really need to do everything. They just need to do the bare minimum. As Snazy gets spotted out by himself, and Shari and Rue, they have a chance to sneak up. Snazy's all by himself. Podesai, we already saw him go down earlier on in the game. And the strike from above, the sneak attack, and it's worked to perfection. And Shari and Rue, they get that elimination, and that's huge because they were the team in the 25th spot. They started the game with 68 points. Now you can kind of count them up, 72, but they still haven't passed up Pink and Vico at 74 points.
Snazy was just so focused on teams that weren't on that Rift Island. He had no clue that those two were sneaking up behind him. The ultimate crouch maneuver, essentially, all the way up until they had their precise moment to pounce onto Snazy. And that's big as well for Shari and Rue, because again, another team just barely managing to hang on to that top 25 threshold. They are currently 25th and looking to go higher.
Yeah, and this is a team, you know, Major won, they became champions. They stayed towards the top of leaderboards in duo cash cups, in FNCSs. They're just trying to continue to mimic that, just like Cooper and Miro, who are almost not even duoing this season. It was left to a coin flip of all things. And what a coin flip it was. I hope Cooper kept that coin, maybe framed it on a wall.
One would think, but I guess it maybe depends on how this weekend goes possibly for the duo. Regardless, they've done an excellent job as a team, but more importantly still, their placements, you saw it jump just a little bit. Part of that due to the fact that Cooper able to find a really nice elimination here, and this is a massive one as well. A good shutdown onto Cold, essentially. And that is huge for Cooper and Miro, because they have had some problems in their rotations dealing with some of these teams that are already guaranteed to be participants of our championship Sunday. So knowing that Cooper was able to find that elimination on the Cold, it just makes the rotation all that easier.
It probably builds a little bit of confidence too, because even though they went down and they got their spot on Sunday, Cold and Acorn, they're going to finish first in this bracket more than likely with how they've been playing. And when you see Cold go down, when you see Acorn go down, it makes that much more better. It's like a sigh of relief. That's one less dangerous player in the lobby that I have to go through towards the very end.
I mean, 3 out of 5 teams in our top 5 are just not in the lobby any longer. They've all been eliminated. only Cammy and Seti and Ritual and Reed, but again, the point difference so high up. These guys can essentially choose exactly how they want to wrap things up for today. Meanwhile, Bugha doesn't get that same luxury. Bugha and Threats have to be on their A game.
Yeah, it's going to be a must. 44 points. We saw the threshold around 72 points. Thinking about 28 points to try to get inside of that bubble or within contention, which really isn't much as long as they continue to have a upward trajectory in a lot of their games, much like Kanata and Agers. A lot was holding them back was Thomas and Malabuka in that off-spawn battle, but now they have a chance here to hold on to their own destiny. Fate is in their hands, and they just need to be able to find a little bit of a refresh. But where are they going to get their refresh? How long can they survive without it? If they stop just short of going deeper into the zone, they got themselves the edge. For a team like this with 329 above the damage threshold, that's just going to be enough for now.
Considering that Agers had to get a reboot off onto Kanata, they were a little bit of shambles.
Yeah.
When you think about how this game started out for them, sure, that initial 50-50 might have been relatively successful. Granted, they would have definitely loved the double elimination factor there, only getting one onto Thomas, Malabuka forcibly retreating, but it is an endeavor, to say the least, to reboot your teammate and then find yourself successfully deep enough into a late game lobby to potentially catapult yourself into the top 25 leaderboards for today.
Yeah, just moments ago in the feed, Bugha taking down Mappy. They're just trying to continue to control their own destiny as well. Teeny taking down Fast Roki. A lot of these teams outside of the bubble, and I thought I just saw iDrop go down to Ping, so that's another team eliminated out of this lobby. King and Phaser, though, they're still in it, and they're here to win it overall. You see the loot getting passed around. They have quite some distance to cover and a lot of players to run through if they want to make it there.
On the bright side, though, they're not the only ones that have a decent amount of map coverage to go. Granted, when you are one of those last teams to come in behind everybody else, your primary concern is going to be, well, depending on where those other teams are situated, depending on where they're positioned, they might be able to cut me off entirely. And that's exactly what King and Phaser are trying to avoid. They're trying to make their way to zone as quickly as possible so that they can be the ones controlling the way that the lobby actually flows.
Yeah, they don't want to get held out. They want to do the holding. They're rotating parallel to both Muzz and Paper, a team that is inside of the top 25. I wouldn't say they're as safe as can be. Anything could still happen. But Phaser's doing a good job of leading the charge. Found themselves a little bit of spot where they can hold up for now, but they're getting focused by a couple players in this lobby. Alex Aworthy being one of them on the other side as he continues to peek through the cone. 81 below, Taco. This isn't looking good for now.
They might not have the damage threshold just yet, but they do have a few crash pads. Phaser gonna instantly use one to jump a little bit further, a little bit more up on that height as well, but the shots come through all the way across the lobby, and that's gonna be an instantaneous knock just about onto Phaser. King now under heavy duress, trying to do what he can, forced to build down, forced to drop numerous layers, but again, with this legendary Slurp Juice, will be able to just barely prevent himself from being eliminated by the damage threshold tags off of the Storm Surge, but still, it is tough stuff right now for King.
Yeah, if it wasn't Trulex and Chicho on the other side, it's Storm Surge. They're below the threshold. Even with the Slurp Juice pops, they're taking a lot of damage, but Rise Yamzo, team who took down Kanata and Agers in the beginning, well, it's just Kanata this time around, but if he can go back to his OG self, we used to call him one of the more prolific solo players in the game, being able to pick up a massive amount of points, a huge amount of clutches. We saw Agers do it in their major championship run. Now it's Kanata's turn to pick up the pace. You see him going low. He doesn't have a lot of builds, not a lot of resource. The only thing he really has going for him is the damage threshold when it comes to Storm Surge.
A nice little gift, though, just on the ground. Managed to pick up some materials. It's going to provide him more than the 4 builds he had initially to work with. Shot him up to 30, but still, Kanata also now with this Icy Breacher in tow, breaking through the floors of some of these builds and just hoping that there is not a full team on the other side of it, because you're looking at a 1v1 with Kanata, decent chance, but 2 versus 1 situations is tough for any player to deal with.
there are more teams left alive right now that are outside of the top 25 trying to earn their spot than there is inside of the top 25. And placement points haven't even begun to kick in yet. That puts a lot of pressure on the King. He's already survived Storm Surge once. He has the Slurp Juice. He has a couple minis, but he's still 123 below. He's not even peeking out going for shots. He's just trying to survive it. And if he looks down low, there's a bit of loot. I thought I saw the tip of a big pot down there as well, which will be crucial for his survival. He finally looks down. There's a med mist as well. He found a treasure trove and a miracle to keep himself alive. But he knows he needs to go. He knows he needs to continue moving forward, get towards the zone. You don't want to fall behind, but a nice shot from the backside. King forced to stabilize himself, stop the rotation. So that means a lot of teams are going to be able to hop over him and get to zone first.
Again, right now, it seems the King, he's trying to prioritize positioning, just hoping that some other team, some other solo gets eliminated first, and that could potentially put him to where he actually isn't below that search threshold. But Kanata right now, just barely clinging on, but it won't be enough. Finally finds himself eliminated from the lobby. Unfortunate run there for Kanata and Aegis in our final game of the day.
Yeah, at least he got this experience of playing on the big stage, because he's going to have to go again tomorrow against our last chance major teams. Zaxidus and his teammate have the high ground. They started this game on the bubble. You got to imagine they've been climbing up that ladder, just like Bugha and Threats. You talked about it yourself. You even casted it throughout the day. They have yet to play a solid game as a duo. This is their chance. But the solos trying to push back both Alex and Worthy as well. A lot of damage being done here by Storm Surge, not even these players.
We're seeing so many teams, though, struggling with Storm Surge, but for Bugha and Threats, they were over 800 damage above. They can focus entirely on how they choose to actually tarp through some of these congested layers, and right now, Miro, forced into a solo position, won't have any sort of time to try and help out Cooper in the process. We are simply too deep into these moving zones at this point, as now Miro finds himself in a decent amount of pressure, a couple of slap flashes, all of his slap splashes actually going to be expended here. As Miro trying to see if he can find an opening from the backside of the zone. Nutty from the side though,
wow.
Clean shot onto 7-man, and a quick build up to utilize his med kit.
Just quick moving, quick reacting, but not quick enough. That's Cowgamer and 7-man. A big game's needed from them. They could boost themselves into that top 25 as well. Bugha and Threats, 5 eliminations so far, peeking down low, trying to recycle some of these builds because they know they don't got much left. A refresh or a siphon mask, anything is what they're looking for. And they even split it between them two, so it's even less for an individual. They fall on top of Alex. Can they get that elimination? Can they get the siphon? Yes, they can. Off the back of Threats, who gets a double elimination and push themselves into the top 10.
Just barely there. No, Bugha actually gonna find himself trapped just outside. He won't be able to make it in time. And the knock from that surge damage, that's so tough that the Storm is going to be his ultimate competitor. But Threats still up. Threats still trying to move forward. Doesn't have much left in the med mist though. Needs to find a refresh at this point.
It's almost 100% necessary, but these points that he's grabbing here, staying alive, 7 eliminations as well. This could be enough, but it's definitely going to be a buzzer beater if I've ever seen one myself, and he's continuing to bypass everybody. But on the high ground, it's Yamzo and Rise that are trying to take this last and final game of the day. A few teams actually that are stuck down low still need this shot to try to qualify. Misha and Teen is one of them. Chulex and Chicho, they probably already got their spot, but Threats does it yet again. Another elimination, trying to go ahead and keep him and Bugha's dream alive.
But for Threats, he didn't find any sort of white heals, which he needed. Granted, it might not be necessary. Almost found the closing shot there on some Rise, but with the Yamzo there to back him up, it's no problem whatsoever. And we are seeing one of NA's finest with a victory royale for the day close.
I call them one of the most dangerous teams coming into the Global Championship. It may have taken them some time to heat up, but they have finally won the game. And I want to go ahead and hear exactly what they have to say, so I'm going to throw it over to Frankie to let us know how they're feeling in this moment.
I'm between the Danger duo, and what a day it's been for the two of you. A spot in Sunday's grand final was inevitable, but how did you ramp things up for the victory royale at the end of today?
It was a rough first few games. We had 2 0-pointers back-to-back, so we said we wouldn't last, and he had, I think, 3 headshot snipes this game, so it set us up in the beginning of the game and got the win.
And you are currently in 4th place. So you say you've had a tough day, but you've had incredible performance. For you, Rise, what's it been like getting to compete with so many people here?
It's been awesome. It's my first LAN, and I'm just excited to be here.
It's your first LAN. That's incredible because you're taking to it like a duck to water. Let me ask you about this year and getting ready for LAN, because we know the two of you, you love to go for eliminations, but you've had to find consistency and stability to make it to the end games, and now you make it look successful. What do you think was the key to making that change?
To be honest, we've just been playing the whole year, and we just kept the same play style.
Yeah, and for the two of you now, how are you finding the pressure of being on LAN? Is it affecting the comms in any way?
I think the first game we're a little nervous, of course, both our first LANs, but after game 1, it went away, and it feels good to be playing an international stage, so.
Do you think you could get used to being on LAN? Do you feel like this is your favorite place to be now?
Yeah, I just have to get used to it, and once you get used to it, it's kind of easy.
You make it look easy, I'm not gonna lie, but I know it's definitely not. Eomzo, Rise, congratulations. We'll see you on Sunday, and we'll see the guys on the desk right now, I think.
Thank you so much. This is a unicorn duo. This is a rare type of duo, okay? I'm talking you're bringing together two people who are unique in gameplay, in skill set, in hair color. These guys have it all. The Victory Royale, especially here in championship first day, global championship first day, that's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll be honest, I feel like they were a little quiet throughout the day. I wasn't really keeping a close eye on Eomzo and Rise, but of course, last game of the day, they're gonna be like, hey, by the way, guys, like, we're one of the best teams here, by the way.
Yeah, 100%, man. The Ginger Giants, hey? These guys, look, you said a bit quiet. I had seen them sort of within almost every end game, right, towards the back end, right? You said, you know, he had the double 0-point games or whatnot, but then the rest of it was very consistent, exactly what you expect to see from Eomzo and Rise. They're one of the teams I love the most from NA, right? Because tactically, they are sound, right? They are as good tactically as any other team in the world. And when they are feeling confident, when they are in their rhythm, they are so good, and they showed it there in that last game.
Eomzo's always been one of those guys, right, that is just ridiculously confident. And it's not in like a cocky way, it's just he knows what he can do.
He's good.
And now they're like, hey, look, kind of what he's saying, once we figured it out, it's easy. It's not necessarily easy. They are just that good.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to point out the fact that, you know, they mentioned that, yeah, sure, the first game we were a little bit nervous. And a lot of the times we talk about experience being that, oh, they've been to these in-person events before. And that's why some of those players that have that experience come in and they're sort of ready. But the fact that they were able to adapt and get comfortable in just a short amount of time, right? We only played 5 games today, and they were talking like they were very, very comfortable towards the end of it. So that is impressive in its own right.
But that comes with having a game plan, right? And that's the difference between them and a lot of other teams, just in compared to Fortnite in general, is these guys come ready. And when you have a game plan that you can trust, you just have to be confident, right? Because you know you follow that game plan, it's going to take you far, and that's exactly what these guys can do.
Absolutely. Let's do this. Let's take a look at our standings. Remember, we want to end the day in top 25 to go straight on through to Sunday. Real quick, Vivid, I am not good at reading. What's that? What is that? What do you say? What's the name up there in the first place?
Hey, Levin, let's take the facts here, right? I'm a little short. Have a little trouble with the top shelf sometimes.
Okay.
Can you go ahead and read out first place from all the way up there?
Guys.
All the way up there?
All right.
Who's
so
that?
In first place, you have Agent Cold and Dig Acorn. They have been phenomenal. Yes, 325 points. First place.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got them. Now, what's crazy to me, let's talk about the overall of this top 10, right? I would have expected a lot more EU names in general, but that's not the case. Now, we have some high-profile ones in there, Queasy, Venos, Seti, and Cammy. But still, NA deciding to show up on day 1.
Yeah, NA had a very good day. I'm very, very proud of everybody. I think Acorn and Cole definitely proved that low ground is pretty much theirs, especially when it comes to finding the eliminations, when it comes to finding the great rotations that they actually do through some of those mid games. Some of them they just weren't even building. So shout out to Acorn for making some of those calls. And obviously, Cold, he'll always find you an elimination.
100%, right? And even similar for Eomzo and Rise towards the back end of them games, right? There were a couple of those games, I think it was game 3. We saw them try to look up for height, and they were ready. They wanted to go for it. Queasy and Venom up there started spraying them. But when you're an IGL as good as Rise is, you're not concerned about it. Like, cool, you can't play for height. I'll just play mid ground and low ground just as well. And that's exactly what they've done today.
You love to see it. Now, our next question obviously has to be, who's going through? We know the top 25 will be moving on to Sunday. Let's take a look at a list of the 25 players that have qualified. A couple of names, let's just call them out. Obviously, we saw some of the big ones. I wanted to quickly highlight Zagu right here and Pepoclip. Obviously, we saw them back in the days of Invitational. For them, though, back then, day 2 didn't quite hit as hard. But now, making it through to Sunday, they have time to prepare. And hopefully, they'll bring some heat.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited to actually see what they bring on day number 3. We also saw some very cool strategies from them throughout the day. You know, farming some of that surge. Very, very cool from them. But talking about some of the smaller regions, I mean, Alex and Worthy, 6th place from the OCE region. Very impressive.
Alex is one of my favorite players to watch. Such an electric player, so entertaining. At any given moment, this guy can turn it on and just absolutely storm and roll for anyone. Worthy as well. When I spoke to them, they said they were struggling a bit, right? It's a 25-hour flight for them, right, to get over here. And they said, yeah, we're feeling a bit tired, but, you know, give us some good sleep and we'll be able to get into our lobby and show you what we can do. And that's what they're doing here today.
So now that we've kind of concluded the first 5 games, how are you guys feeling about the competition? Obviously, it's pretty evident there's a lot of duos that are still holding some things back, right? Whether that be they held them back and now they're going to lower bracket, or they're in the top 25. They can hold them till Sunday. Did day 1 meet your expectations, Vivid?
Yeah, I feel like so. And again, I want to kind of bring up the regional aspect of the global championship. Going actually into finals from the upper bracket, we have 12 EU teams, 8 NA teams, 2 Asia teams, and then 1 each for Middle East, Asia, or not Asia, Brazil, and OCE. So pretty rounded out, right? Regional representation from every single one of those going into the finals from the upper bracket.
Yeah, someone from everywhere stepped up, seemingly, and I think that's what you sort of would have expected. I think we always come into these competitions and think, you know, we sort of stack the biggest names up there and think, oh, this team's going to call, that team's going to call. There's always going to be some form of disappointment, and I think there will be some teams that thought, you know what, this hasn't been the best day for us. Yeah, we have the lower bracket, but we wanted to get it done in the upper. But even with that being said, I think I've definitely seen what I expected to see from a lot of the better teams, the better players, the big names, the fan favorites, of course. Even from what we've seen from the crowd here today, when they were more in there, a lot of people gone to the toilet, it seems. But when they were here, right, the noise was crazy. So I think all in all, man, the players who will be playing tomorrow definitely have to come in and maybe adjust some things. But it's been a great day.
For sure. Let's take a look at some of those players. We'll start kind of on the bubble. And this final game was a fight for that top 25 spot. Ultimately, it was iDrop and Mappy that do make it through to the grand finals on Sunday. But take a look at some of these names here down to 34th that are going to be we'll be seeing go tomorrow. Fahad actually for one moment, overtook the 25th spot, and it looked like it was going to be locked in, but just barely falling short. A single point making the difference.
How do we have 2 teams a single point behind 25th there? In that 33rd spot, I saw Pink and Vika. I want to talk about them very, very quickly because I'm expecting that they will have the opportunity to be uncontested in the lower bracket tomorrow. So I'm assuming it'll be a little bit better of a day for them.
Yeah, 100%, right? They're more accustomed to sort of dealing with that situation where they'll have access to all the loot, right? And all that space in that area. But of course, if you are near these teams, they will be feeling a bit disappointed. You have to be able to just mentally reset, come back into tomorrow. I think the big thing is, it's obviously going to be a very different lobby tomorrow. We have a whole new set of teams coming in, a bunch of players who may have been contested today, uncontested, like in the case of Pink and Vico. Some players who maybe were uncontested today might be contested tomorrow, right? So it's like, you know, you're almost coming into not a whole different tournament, but it's going to feel that way in the lobby at times.
Is there more pressure going into tomorrow? Obviously, the 25 in the lower bracket have been watching. They've been learning. They've been trying to figure things out. Players that have gone from today now to the lower bracket, is that more pressure? Is it maybe like, okay, I'm warmed up, so let me just kind of change a couple things and we're good?
I think from a format-wise, it has to be more pressure, right? Like, it just has to be. But more games, right? 5 games under their belt now on the international stage. They got to be feeling a little bit more comfortable when it comes to the setups, the crowd, and the lights.
Yeah, I think there'll be more pressure because, of course, these teams were expected to go through. They were the upper bracket teams, right? A lot of the lower bracket teams, some of those guys don't have that LAN experience. But for the teams who didn't quite do it today, in your head, you're thinking, oh, top 25, that's pretty easy. I can get that. You didn't, right? So now you're almost second-guessing yourself. It's not easy to get top 25.
Yeah, this is, I mean, what? 75 of the best duos in the world, right? This was going to be a difficult task. Some duos took full advantage. I'm looking at you guys in EU. You know who you are. Queasy, Vano, Seti, Cammy. But still, we have to keep focused, right? We cannot skip a beat. Now, we're going to take a little break here because Kelly is standing by in the Creator Lounge with none other than Peach Cobbler.
That is right, Zeke. Peach Cobbler here joining me. Thank you so much. Day one is now over. How has it been for you?
Oh my gosh, it's been absolutely amazing. It's kind of like just a big teaser for what's to come.
Oh, yeah. I mean, tomorrow, speaking of what's to come, we have the lower bracket now joining the bottom 25 teams here. Is there any team coming into tomorrow that we haven't seen today that you're excited for?
Oh my gosh, definitely Clix and Epic Whale. Some of my favorites for a long time now.
Oh yeah, you were actually just telling me before we went live that you've been going to Fortnite tournaments since the World Cup. What has that been like watching Fortnite grow and evolve?
It's honestly been such a blessing. Like, I feel like each year Epic just steps it up one level after the next. And it got me hooked on seeing the live events. Like, being here is nothing like being at home.
And speaking of Epic,